Expo Mina Peru is back in 2026, marking the year's most significant mining event. All about mining and its businesses from September 9th to 11th at the Jockey Exhibition Center. Reserve your booth at expomina.com and don't miss out. Find out everything about the mining industry, interviews, reports, and much more at Rumbo Minero. Stop by our website rumbominero.com where you can scan the QR code to stay updated with our social media platforms.
Hello, greetings from Rumbo Minero. It's a pleasure to introduce ourselves. I'm Jorge Leon and joining me is Cesar Campos. Shall we begin? Cesar, how are you feeling today?
Jorge, how's it going?
Well, we have two very important guests for very important topics. We have Diana Gonzales, a congresswoman of the Republic and a member of the Energy and Mines Commission of Congress. We're discussing the MAPE Law without a green light. What else, Cesar?
Henry Luna, former Deputy Minister of Mines, will address the removal of 50,000 inactive records from Reinfo over the past 4 years, highlighting the significance of this action.
Certainly. Prior to our meeting with Congresswoman Diana Gonzales, here is a report that I have prepared for you.
The Energy and Mines Commission of Congress rejected the predicament of the MAPE Law, despite the attempt by the president of the working group, Paul Gutierrez, to force its approval without addressing the serious legal, technical, and constitutional observations made by the Ministry of Energy and Mines and the National Society of Mining, Energy and Oil. The predicament also included the requests of informal miners who have been left out of the formalization process for more than 4 years, failing to demonstrate any mining activity. The debate on this regulation should resume in the next legislature, which begins on July 27th under new leadership and with a renewed composition of the Commission. To guarantee a coherent and feasible law, it will be crucial to take into account several recommendations, preventing the new mining easement process from infringing on property rights. In order to put an end to prohibited practices such as the use of dredges in alluvial mining and to oppose suggestions aiming to shield miners who violate regulations from facing criminal charges. Also, the plan to swap the REINFO for a new RENAMAP registry is troubling, as it would permit almost automatic registration without clear technical or environmental guidelines. This could potentially lead to increased informality. Laws governing artisanal and small-scale mining should not yield to political influences, but rather adhere to principles of legality in order to ensure their effectiveness, sustainability, and responsibility.
Okay, we are with Congresswoman Diana Gonzales. She is, as a member of the Energy and Mines Commission, we have several questions for you. We are pleased to welcome Congresswoman Diana Gonzales and would like to seek your insights on various matters. A. The reason we've observed that Congressman Paul Gutierrez, who is the committee chair, has been insisting desperately is quite intriguing. While debating the MAPE Law document, could you tell us a little about what has occurred and why there is such insistence?
Yes, it so happened that the legislative session concluded on June 15th. However, the president of the committee has persisted in calling for extraordinary sessions not just for discussing, but also for voting on the matter concerning the MAPE Law. This is happening despite the committee having already attained a significant majority agreement for deferring this issue to the next legislative session. Ultimately, it appears that this topic will indeed be deliberated and decided upon in the upcoming legislative session. It is worrisome how the hopes of the demonstrators along Abancay Avenue, who have been clamoring for unconditional support, are being played with. The situation is increasingly troubling and raises concerns about the legitimacy of the decision-making process.
This week, the congressman voiced his astonishment and worry over a declaration from the Deputy Minister of Mines. Mr. Ronald Ibarra appeared to imply that Congress was providing him with the solution to the issue of these 50,000 undocumented individuals, to put it mildly, who have been excluded from the REINFO registry. What do you think inspires this attitude from the Deputy Minister?
Distrust and a lot of uncertainty. Because while the minister is declaring that they will remain firm with this decision of there are 50,000 miners that have opted for self-exclusion. Because a significant portion of these 50,000, around 90%, had their reintegration suspended for over 4 years, meaning that they had not shown the slightest willingness to formalize during the last 4 years or more. Nonetheless, we have the presence of the Deputy Minister, who is somewhat attempting to play the role of pilot, washing his hands by claiming that there are other powers within the state that are involved, that they could do something about the matter. What we really require is a strong dedication from the executive branch in order to fulfill our needs and demands effectively. Indeed, the MAPE bill is currently in Congress, but take note, it's not solely about them in the executive branch. I have already submitted my own bill. It is essential for Congress to actively participate in the debate, ensuring their presence to address and clarify any uncertainties that may arise. It seems entirely reasonable to me that the sector should engage more actively in the Energy and Mines Commission rather than waiting until the last minute when we have already... The signed document has just arrived after the plenary's first or second vote, and they can now make observations at that moment when they still have a full deadline, as in this legislative period, to participate in the discussion.
Congressman, do you fear that because of the pressure, the roadblocks, and everything related to this issue, that in reality the roadblocks are a crime? Well, considering all this pressure from the illegal miners, are you worried that the government could reverse its stance on the little? What level of acceptance does it currently hold?
Yes, I truly worry that the government could regress in its actions. Consequently, I urge the minister, who has been the spokesperson for the sector in recent days, to address the statement regarding the MAPE Law. Because yes, it would indeed be concerning after having made progress with the latest that has happened and the last supreme decree that the executive should finally backtrack. Note, in the pursuit of formalization.
Due to the congressman's retraction of the project, we will not refer to it or the ruling. Well, regarding the commission, it was actually the opinion of Mr. Paul Gutierrez. What do you think will happen at the start of the first legislature? In 2025, there will be the election of the new board of directors for Congress, won't it? A. Will there be the necessary modifications? Do you believe that the presidency of the Energy and Mines Commission will even fall to people with a broader and more responsible criterion?
I am truly hopeful that during the upcoming legislative period, we will be presented with a wonderful opportunity to reassess this initial report. It is essential that we approach this task with seriousness and organization, not just because of the pressure we are facing on Abancay Avenue. I was taken aback when the President decided to put the preliminary report up for a vote, along with a fee for any edits. None of us were even fully aware of the report's contents or the amendments that would be considered before the vote. This is why I cast my vote in opposition. I view the President's actions as highly irresponsible, as I personally felt a great deal of anxiety, along with a strong determination to resolve this matter, which is undoubtedly a sensitive issue that the President needed to address, potentially having made commitments on this front, not to mention a significant level of engagement, given his legislative proposal related to this subject. Looking ahead to the next legislative term, I am confident that we can carry out our duties with thorough technical assessments and careful planning. The so-called working groups within the Energy and Mines Commission must be open to the public and transparent, allowing all relevant stakeholders to present their perspectives during the same meetings, rather than pushing for legislation that benefits only a particular sector. By October, we should be ready to initiate discussions on a new draft that will give us ample time to present it in the plenary session should the Executive Council desire to do so. To watch and be able to get this standard approved before the end of the next legislative period.
Charge 2. Saying that making the text is disrespectful truly undermines its value. Congressman, the central theme, we have been able to hear the representative of Confermin speak, who is a legal miner. However, he still possesses the invoices that he has already sold to the processor, this one. But well, he himself mentions it concerning a mining company that lacks any contract with the miner. Thus, mining companies, both from Peru and internationally, are investing in larger plots than the concession. As everyone knows, the pit frequently goes to multiple sites, and they also have a working process in that land. Entering into these discussions about giving part of the concessions to the artisanal and legal miners is really very dangerous. Congressman.
I believe we have completely different concepts of illegal mining and formal mining. I think there is a significant attempt to confuse the public with these concepts. This is undoubtedly a subject that demands specialization, and it has been quite complicated to suddenly engage in the discussion. However, we must not mislead the public, And with a ruling that backs this matter, these inquiries about the specific definitions of regulated mining, legal mining, alluvial mining, also in a very, very important article. I think that if they are the first to want to formalize, it is essential to clarify each of these concepts and cease misleading the public.
Finally, Congressman, and I would like a fairly brief response. This has come up here on the Rumbo Minero program at the initiative of our commentator, Iván Arenas. With the upcoming elections, I believe a proposal is crucial and needs to be addressed. Do you believe that, as a policy, I ask you, there should be a pact among the next candidates, aspirants, so that in a serious and absolutely responsible manner, they observe the issue of mining just as you have done and exercised during your participation in the Energy and Mines Commission?
I strongly believe that as we near the upcoming elections, this matter holds great significance. Therefore, it is crucial to have the ability to address it with even more importance. Pass this MAPE law before the end of the legislature. Because in the end, what we observe is that a lot of these miners are risking everything on this decision. Because we aren't just talking about a reinforcement with delays. We are discussing a public policy that will significantly affect our country for the next 20 years, which is an important consideration for the next elections. I am sincerely concerned about ensuring that our Commission can come to an agreement and achieve a consensus to approve this text, gaining support from all members. Prior to the semester's conclusion, in the event that this does not happen and we reach December 31st, it will create a major problem for the country if approval is not granted this ruling.
Congresswoman Diana Gonzales, thank you very much for being with us, and also thank you for to work seriously in this Energy and Mines Commission for the good of all Peruvians. We thank you for being at Rumbo Minero.
Thank you.
Now let's pause for a commercial and return shortly.
Do you want to position your brand and expand your client portfolio in the mining sector? Engage with the top mining magazine in America to showcase your brand to miners, contractors, and influential leaders in the mining industry. A great opportunity to reach key decision makers in the sector. With a strong international multi-platform presence that includes a television program, specialized websites, and social media accounts, reaching an audience of approximately 2.7 million people. Ask about our yearly advertising packages and promote your business in Rumbo Minero, the best tool for success in the mining industry. Invest wisely. Invest with the leaders. More information at www.rumbominero.com.
We are here with José Gonzales, who is leading the project, international and editor of our magazine Rumbo Minero. José, how are you?
Well, very well, Jorge.
Let's
Thank
talk
you.
About the first topic. Please tell us about the copper rates. What's happening with this issue?
Surprisingly, against all odds, In the Oval Office, President Trump made an announcement regarding a cabinet meeting, prompted by a question from a journalist who had already determined what it would be, specifically the level of copper tariffs. 50%. The announcement of the report from the Department of Commerce was anticipated to occur in September, and it was also possible that these tariffs would commence in November at a certain rate of 25%. The announcement caused an immediate reaction in the copper markets. Within just a few minutes, the price of copper increased by 13%, ultimately hitting a high of 17%. This asset shows considerable volatility over the week, sustaining those rates at approximately 554, surpassing the previous record of 520 by a considerable margin, greatly exceeding it in comparison. And the market is suggesting that these rates might keep increasing in the future. Currently, there are ongoing assessments to determine the repercussions for countries that export copper. Chile has mentioned that Codelco has not given a formal opinion about this, but overall, Chile has said it hopes the rates will not apply to them. The exact details of the implementation will remain unclear until the report from the Department of Commerce is made public. It is uncertain whether the focus will be solely on concentrates, cathodes, or recycled copper materials, in case it pertains to Chinese products containing copper. What we are beginning to observe in the situation of Peru, where it has been stated that we export 3% to China, to the United States, and 61% to China. As we reach 67, we notice that including the cathodes alters the proportion significantly. There is a possibility that the copper impacted in Peru could account for 25% of our production, based on how they are set up. The stipulations of these tariffs are that the market is about to enter a certain process. Complex. What is certain is that to the extent that inventories are at historically high levels and that the difference between the London Metal Exchange and the Chicago Futures Exchange prices are expected to remain high, tend unchanged. And it all depends. Peru's future depends heavily on the effects of tariffs on margins, production costs, and selling prices. This will determine the country's overall prospects. Ultimately, this represents a negative announcement for the United States, which consumes 1.6 million tons of copper annually and imports 50% of its consumption.
Continuing with Donald Trump, Jose, what about his great and beautiful budget law?
The law was received with some approval, a skepticism and contradiction because it is a deficit law. This law, which later reduces income, continues to enforce cuts on the fiscal revenue generated by the wealthiest sectors of corporations. It wants to cut the benefits of the base of the pyramid, but it increases defense spending and in matters of immigration policies. The deficiency present in the legislation is leading to the continued depreciation of the dollar. So far this year, the evaluation has increased by 10% in real terms, while interest rates in the United States continue to be higher than 4%. For the debt of the Treasury bonds, the fears and uncertainty regarding these tariffs, which are not just for copper, the President has made an announcement regarding tariffs imposed on 22 countries through letters he has dispatched, which set forth unilateral tariffs from the United States, including Brazil, at 50% until they stop the trial against Bolsonaro. This condition must be met to reduce tariffs for Brazil. There are worries about stagflation in the US in the latter half of the year. They keep it up. This isn't great news for copper, but conversely, the tariffs are still a positive aspect. In appreciation of its quotations.
Much appreciation to José Gonzales, the esteemed director of Rumbo Minero, an international magazine that we value greatly. If you want to obtain Rumbo Minero magazine for free, where all the program topics and much more are available, you need to go to www.rumbominero.com and download the magazine for free, if you are a supplier. This tool is ideal for mining sector businesses, offering the best solution available. Let's pause for a commercial and return.
The highly anticipated Expomina Peru 2026 has returned as the premier mining event of the year. Everything about mining and its businesses from September 9th to 11th at the Jockey Exhibition Center. Book your stand at expomina.com and ensure you don't miss this opportunity. Stay informed about everything in the mining sector, interviews, reports, and much more at Rumbo Minero. Stop by our website rumbominero.com and scan the QR code to stay connected with us on our social media platforms.
We are currently joined by the engineer Henry Luna, who is recognized in the industry as the former Deputy Minister of Mines. How are you doing today, Engineer Luna?
Very grateful for the invitation and willing to answer any questions you deem appropriate.
Engineer, tell us, as you probably know, the government has made a decision to remove 50,000 records from Reinfo, excluding them from further consideration. We are currently debating this matter back and forth, and to complicate things further, there's now a road blockade. This situation poses quite a challenge. Well, what condition do you think these 50,000 will be left in? It has been preferable to extract them, or suddenly it was better to extract them and work on leading them towards a new reconciliation, or to try to lead them? What's your take?
I think that in terms of mining formalization, it started in 2011-12 with these commitment declarations. Approximately 85,000 applications were received. But regarding those, they haven't handled anything near 50,000, have they?
That's it then? They're finished. That's how you put it.
More than 13 years have passed from 2012 to 2025, right? And on the other side, we also know that formal mining companies in medium and large-scale mining, small mining, and artisanal mining do not exceed 1,000 mining units in the country.
But
so on a craft level, we might estimate that there are between 2,000 and 5,000 artisanal mining centers. We really should have addressed the topic of artisanal mining centers from the outset, don't you think? And not about freely made statements. Any citizen can share their thoughts. They claim that they were involved in mining activities, but there has been no verification or proof of this, correct?
I wanted to ask a question. Well, I have heard the representative of Confemin to say that he is a legal, submits his invoices, but when they ask him about the sale of processors, obviously, but when they ask him where he gets the mineral, he says it's from a mining company. Yes, they ask if he has a contract with the miner, and he does not. So I believe there is also absolute misinformation, because he considers himself a legal miner, but the place where he extracts the mineral is not his concession.
Yes, it's clear that there's a mix-up about what mining activity is. We know that exploration, prospecting and exploration serve the purpose of investigating and determining mineral deposits in the country that has these resources, metal and non-metal, in second position. There are those for exploitation, which are the ones that have received the required authorizations and permits. And also the processing allowances for mineral resources are considered. Hence, benefit concessions are not always required to have explicit approval, as is illustrated in this example. Mining concessions from which to extract the mineral, but yes, it is essential for them to know the lawful origin of the mineral they are working with. So I think there is a lot of misinformation. On a general level concerning mining, how the mining process unfolds.
Okay, there is misinformation that requires correction in the new MAPE Law and should be included. Minister Jorge Montero mentioned the necessity for fundamental traceability, which is about knowing where you purchase, who processes it, and who you sell it to. Correct? This represents the core and fundamental issue. However, there have been other grievances related to, for example, the supervisory and regulatory powers that regional governments have on environmental issues. And in short, as an engineer, what do you think the new MAPE Law should include regarding the observations that have been made?
Well, the topic of the MAPE Law, we need, I believe, create a nationwide program that is dedicated exclusively to the issue of mining formalization to complete this process. We know that there are 30,000 that could be completed, but those 30,000 still have a long time to go. Let's say to be up to date with all your obligations, with all your commitments, right? So we need a program. For example, when I first started in the mining industry, I took part in the National Mining Cadastre project. And why did we do it? During that period, there were no established coordinates for mining rights, and it was unclear how many mining rights were actually present.
I agree.
Therefore,
to stay focused, should the Ministry of Energy and Mines always be the governing authority for the program?
You should, of course, definitely. That question is important, because we know that between 2012 and 2024, a significant portion of the funds for mining formalization, most of the funds have been sent to the Ministry of the Environment, particularly for environmental and mercury-related topics. In terms of technology topics, they haven't solely concentrated on formalization activities. Additionally, it's important to note that there have been 26 regions were tasked with the responsibility of this formalization process, but they haven't done it for various reasons. One reason, the reality is that there are 3 or 4 people working in mining and energy sectors. In addition, they must perform the required oversight and regulation. They also need to evaluate the environmental studies. Can I have permission for energy authorizations, etc., please?
I have one last question since we don't have much time left. I know you are from the technical side and you have been discussing that for many years. Additionally, with good work, this Deputy Minister of Mines, I would like to discuss the political aspect at the moment. What action should the authorities take? This situation is an imminent threat. They are cutting off supplies not only to Lima but also the export of arequipeños, affecting many in Peru. And we know that illegal miners have strong financial support to carry out an indefinite strike. What should the government do about the current situation, and what is your suggestion?
I believe that the issue is that exact figures are not known. Right now, the only means to get exact numbers is to perform a census of the artisanal mining operations taking place.
Currently, we are encountering this issue.
And about the benefit plans, that's a long-term topic, isn't it? At this time, the demonstrators are not fully miners. They are not 100% miners, no. Employees working at a modest mining site for ore extraction. So I think that at this moment, what we must keep doing is, no, we cannot abandon this. We should only maintain ourselves at 30,000. Who reach this level
To
of...
resist political pressure.
Don't give in to political pressure, and also to tell those that there are none, to the remaining 50,000 or 100,000 people, that within Peruvian mining there exists the stratum of small-scale miners and artisanal producers, and that requests can be made. Mining permits to... In carrying out mining operations, we must maintain adaptability, as past experience has shown to be crucial. 13 years for reinforcements. Why not consider granting small mining producers and artisanal miners concessions to conduct mining activities, providing them with official authorization for their operations, and be able to associate with these artisanal miners?
Excellent. Very well, engineer.
It's kind of like the Amparo car we used to have in the 90s, don't you think?
Fantastic idea. We are grateful, Engineer Luna, for your continued support. We are looking forward to your presence on the mining route once more to observe the ongoing changes. Thank you very much for your contributions.
Thanks.
Now, let's proceed to the section focused on mining and society, presented by Iván Arenas.
There is much talk surrounding the 50,560 reinforcements that were suspended and subsequently annulled on July 4th by the Ministry of Energy and Mining. Some aim to, in various ways, we aim to construct a narrative suggesting that those 50 South 560 reinforcements will indeed be returned once more. And that is entirely false, and we will explain the reasons. The 50 South 560 reinforcements that have been annulled and have also been suspended are unable to work and have not worked for the past 4 years. From 2020 onward, the Ministry of Energy and Mines has a rule that divides REINFO into 2 categories, suspended and active. Moreover, on that occasion, he gave them a deadline of 60 days for the suspended reinforcements to become active. After 4 years, there are approximately 42,000 suspended reinforcements since 2020. Of the 50,560 reinforcements, it is evident that there is a large number of these suspended reinforcements that have not wanted to, and they have had a calling to formalize their status. So what do we have? We find that the Ministry of Energy and Mines has cancelled them. Is there a possibility for them to return, as mentioned by legislators, promoters, or leaders, or will they remain absent indefinitely? Is it conceivable for mining organizations to undergo formalization? That's simply not possible. The suspended reinforcements, besides that, the inactive units have remained unused. Functional activity has only been observed in the active reinforcements. So now we have 31,000 active reinforcements that are currently active, and the Ministry of Energy and Mines has provided a lifeline to the suspended reinforcements for less than a year. First, it is not true that over 50,500 reinforcements were operational. It is not the case that they will be able to be accepted or renewed once more, via the cancellation of the rules set forth on July 4th. And we obviously need to have a formalization program. As the Minister of Energy and Mines announced, by December of this year, there will be 31,000 active and suspended reinforcements in place for a duration of less than a year. This is the truth about the 50,000 reinforcements that have been cancelled, that will not be able to return, moreover, no matter how much some want to. Until we meet again next week. Much appreciated.
Well, we are reaching the end of the program. Thank you very much for being with us, Cesar. I believe we thanked Congresswoman Diana Gonzales. Finally, I think it matters because it doesn't matter if it's one way or the other, but we need to treat things with seriousness. The approach of testing a draft and then looking at the text later is disrespectful to Peru.
Acknowledging the honesty and credibility of Congresswoman Gonzales and Henry Luna, the ex-Deputy Minister of Mines, as they join forces to explore an intriguing subject for discussion, which is the need to create a program for formalization that would be under the direction of the Ministry of Energy and Mines. A topic to discuss in the future, Jorge.
That's right. Well, thank you very much on behalf of Cesar Campos and Jorge Leon. We appreciate you being here with us, and we look forward to seeing you again on this same channel next Sunday. Thanks a lot.